Come, my dear, sit close, and let me share a story that's woven deep into my heart, like threads on an old loom, passed down through generations. My voice may waver with age, but it carries the warmth of all I've lived through, the love and pain that shaped me. This is a tale of our family, of sacrifice and strength, of losing my way and finding it again through the threads of our ancestors. It's long, meant to fill your heart for a good half hour, so settle in, and let me take you back to where it all began. I was born in a village called Santa Luz, a tiny place cradled by hills, where wildflowers painted the fields in bursts of pink, purple, and gold. The air smelled of earth and blossoms, and a river ran through, sparkling like it held the sun's secrets. We weren't rich, not in money, but our hands held a wealth of their own. My grandmother, Mama Rosa, was a weaver, her fingers dancing over a wooden loom, turning wool into stories. Her blankets and shawls were alive with color, blues like the evening sky, reds that burned with passion, golds that shimmered with hope. She'd sit me on her lap when I was barely 5, guiding my small hands to thread the warp and weft. Every thread, she'd whisper, her voice soft as a lullaby, carries the love of those who came before us. When you weave, Sophia, you're never alone. I grew up in that little adobe house, its walls warm with Mama Rosa's creations. She'd tell me tales as we worked, stories of our great-grandmothers, who wove through hard times, hiding messages in their patterns to guide those in need. The loom was our voice, she said, a way to speak when words weren't enough. By 16, I could weave a shawl fine enough to sell at the market, though I'd blush when the village women praised me. I dreamed of having my own loom one day, of telling my own stories through color and thread, but life has a way of pulling at the threads you think are strongest. When I was 22, married to my Tomas, with 2 little ones, Elena, with her bright, curious eyes, and Miguel, who followed me everywhere, drought came to Santa Luz. It wasn't just a dry spell. It was cruel, relentless. The wildflowers withered, the river shrank to a muddy trickle, and the fields turned to dust. Our village, once alive with laughter and trade, grew quiet. Families shared what little they had, thin soups, scraps of maize, but it wasn't enough. The market emptied and people started leaving, chasing work in the cities or beyond. Mama Rosa was sick by then, her cough growing worse each day. Her hands, once so strong, trembled too much to hold the shuttle. I'd sit by her bedside weaving alone, trying to keep her patterns alive. My fingers moved through the threads, but my heart ached with fear. We couldn't afford medicine. Not when every peso went to feeding the children. Tomas would come home from the fields, his face etched with worry, and we'd sit in silence, the weight of our choices pressing down. I'd hold Mama Rosa's hand, feeling the bones beneath her skin, and pray for a miracle. One night, as I wove a blanket in her favorite pattern, a spiral of indigo and crimson, she called me close. Her voice was faint but steady. "Sophia," she said, "the threads will hold you, even when I'm gone. They're stronger than you know." I cried then, my tears staining the cloth, and she smiled, squeezing my hand. "Don't cry for me. Weave for me." She passed that winter, and it was like the last thread of our village snapped. Santa Luz was dying, and so was our hope. Tomas and I faced an impossible choice: stay and starve or leave everything behind. The loom, too heavy to carry, stayed in the house, covered with a sheet like a ghost. We packed what we could, clothes, a few pots, Mama Rosa's bundle of threads, and headed to the city with Elena and Miguel clutching our hands. Their little faces were full of questions we didn't know how to answer. The city was a shock, all concrete and noise, so different from the soft colors of Santa Luz. The air smelled of smoke and metal, and the streets were a maze of rushing people. We found a cramped room in a tenement, the walls so thin we heard our neighbors' lives unfold. Tomas worked construction, coming home covered in dust, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. I took a job in a factory, stitching cheap clothes for strangers, dull, shapeless things that mock the beauty of Mama Rosa's work. The hours were long, the pay barely enough to keep food on the table. Our children grew up in that gray world, their days filled with the city's clatter instead of the loom's rhythm. Elena learned to read from tattered books we found at the market, her mind sharp despite our struggles. Miguel, always eager to help, ran errands for neighbors to earn a few coins. But I saw the light dimming in them, just as it was dimming in me. At night I'd lie awake, thinking of the loom, of Mama Rosa's stories, and feel like I'd betrayed her. I'd promised to carry our heritage forward, but here I was, stitching seams for a world that didn't care. Years slipped by, blurring into a haze of work and worry. Tomas and I grew older, our hands rough, our dreams buried under survival. The children moved out, starting their own families, and I tried to tell them about Santa Luz, about the wildflowers and the loom, but the stories felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. My hands, once so skilled, were stiff from factory work, and the ache in my chest never faded. Then, when I was 50, with silver streaking my hair, everything changed. I was cleaning a closet in our tiny apartment, sorting through forgotten things, when I found a dusty wooden box. Inside was a bundle of Mama Rosa's threads, indigo, crimson, gold, and a soft green like the hills in spring. They were as vibrant as the day she'd dyed them, untouched by time. I held them to my face, breathing in the faint scent of wool and earth, and I swear I heard her voice, "You're never alone." I wept then, not just for her, but for the part of myself I'd buried. Those threads were a call, a reminder of who I was. The next day, I found a second-hand loom at the market. It's wood-worn but sturdy. I set it up in our apartment, ignoring Tomas's raised eyebrows. "What's this, Sophia?" he asked, half smiling. "Starting over?" I nodded, my voice trembling with hope. "Maybe." I started weaving again, slowly, my fingers clumsy at first, but the patterns came back, like a song you never forget. I wove a blanket for Elena's daughter, your mother, pouring all my love, grief, and hope into it. As I worked, I told her Mama Rosa's stories, tales of our great-grandmothers, of women who wove through hardship, keeping our heritage alive. The blanket grew, its colors bright against the city's gray, a piece of Santa Luz reborn. When I gave it to your mother, her eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful, Mama," she said, tracing the patterns. "It's like I can feel them, our ancestors." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. For the first time in years, I felt whole. That blanket was just the beginning. I wove more, shawls, rugs, tapestries, each one a thread connecting us to the past. Neighbors came, drawn by the colors, and I taught them the patterns, the stories. Our apartment, once so gray, became a place of warmth, of laughter, of memory. Those threads were a call, a reminder of who I was. The next day, I found a second-hand loom at the market. It's wood-worn but sturdy. I set it up in our apartment, ignoring Tomas's raised eyebrows. "What's this, Sophia?" he asked, half smiling. "Starting over?" I nodded, my voice trembling with hope. "Maybe." I started weaving again, slowly, my fingers clumsy at first, but the patterns came back, like a song you never forget. I wove a blanket for Elena's daughter, your mother, pouring all my love, grief, and hope into it. As I worked, I told her Mama Rosa's stories, tales of our great-grandmothers, of women who wove through hardship, keeping our heritage alive. The blanket grew, its colors bright against the city's gray, a piece of Santa Luz reborn. When I gave it to your mother, her eyes filled with tears. "It's beautiful, Mama," she said, tracing the patterns. "It's like I can feel them, our ancestors." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. For the first time in years, I felt whole. That blanket was just the beginning. I wove more, shawls, rugs, tapestries, each one a thread connecting us to the past. Neighbors came, drawn by the colors, and I taught them the patterns, the stories. Our apartment, once so gray, became a place of warmth, of laughter, of memory. Elena and Miguel joined me sometimes, their hands learning the craft, their children watching with wide eyes. The loom became our bridge, linking us to Santa Luz, to Mama Rosa, to all those who came before. Now, my dear, as I sit here with you, my hands too old to weave as they once did, I see those threads in you. You carry their strength, their love, their resilience. Life will fray you sometimes. Pull at your edges until you feel like you're coming apart, but you're never alone. The threads of those who came before are there, waiting for you to pick them up, to weave your own story. Take this blanket, the one I wove for your mother, and wrap it around you when the world feels heavy. Let it remind you of Santa Luz, of Mama Rosa, of me. And when you're ready, weave something new. A shawl, a rug, a life. Keep the threads strong, my love, and let them guide you home.